of the Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals.
Recording in progress.
Roll call. Noel Halverson, President. Barb?
Here.
Stephen?
Here.
Corey?
Present.
Joshua?
Here.
Excellent. Thank you all for being here. I would entertain a motion on the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve the agenda for the Monday, December 16th meeting of the Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes from the November 18th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from November 18th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Great. On to regular business, and this is where I get to read part of the script that says, the Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals acts on appeals for variances from city zoning code requirements. The members of the board are appointed, and the board acts as a quasi-judicial body during these appeals, which means the appeals are presented somewhat like a case is presented in court, and the board acts as the judge and determines whether to grant the appeal by a simple majority vote. For each item, we'll hear from the applicant, the petitioner, as well as staff, and any potential additional witnesses that might be appropriate. If you are an applicant or the petitioner for an item on tonight's agenda, please come and take a seat up here at the table when we call your item. So that's that. And we'll jump into regular business. We have a few appeals this evening. The first one, 24-39, consideration with possible action on a request. And please forgive me for brutalizing anyone's names. I try to do my best, but I'm not going to get them all. From Brandon Robidek of Robert E. Lee & Associates, the applicant, and Mark Fine of Russell Metals. Russell Metals Williams Backhaul Incorporated, the property owner, requesting approval of driveway entrances exceeding the maximum width standards for an industrial user at 825 Hinkle Street. So would you please come and join us at the table, folks who were part of that party. And I'm going to just read this out here as well. It is the goal of the Board of Appeals to provide and conduct a hearing that is fair in form, appearance, and substance. To ensure that this hearing satisfies these goals, would each member of the Board of Appeals please confirm the following for this particular appeal by stating I confirm. I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm. I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
And I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. I confirm.
And I confirm. Thank you so much. All right, before we hear from the petitioner, the applicant, will hear from staff. John, are you
That's fine.
you doing this? Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
So what we're looking at is a request to allow for some driveway entrances that are over on Hinkle that exceed standards. So looking at section 44-1773, sub D, sub 2. 2-lane full access driveways of semi-trailers, maximum width maybe at the property line 30 feet, or at the right of way, maximum width at the curb 40 feet. So the plan seeks to reconstruct the 2 entrances that are on this property, the north side at 60 feet wide at the curb line, and the southern property line 60 feet at the curb and approximately 40 feet at the property line. This is the existing property. This is the Walmart facility across the street. This is a industrial user who is in the business park that extends back to the east and the north on the far west side. The applicant is seeking to replace these 2 driveways, which are failing and need to have some reconstruction on them. So some photos as far as what you see out there. The existing driveway that is out there is actually a little bit over what they're looking to do on the site. The existing driveway appears to be about 62 feet or so where the pavement hits the curb, but as you can see, the curb doesn't have a true flare here with an apron, and is approximately 40 feet back over this way at the railway line. This is another view of that driveway that they're looking to replace. And then this is the driveway up to the north, where they're looking to have it be 30 feet at the right of way, but 60 feet as you approach back out towards the road itself at the curb. This is the overall plan set as far as what they had shown. Just to give an idea of scope as far as what they have for their facilities. But the areas in question would be these areas here, where they're looking to put the drive entrances on both sides. So they provided some turning radius plans, and there was consultation that was done with Director Grenier in Public Works, asking a question to that staff because they are directly influenced by this code, what their feelings are on this individual project. They felt based off of the turning radiuses provided, the user, and the interface with Hinkle Street and its location near a heavier traffic intersection back to the south over at Mason Street Frontage Road. They felt that what was shown here by the applicant was appropriate in this particular matter to have both driveways be designed as shown on this plan. So DPW staff is in favor of this. Typically speaking, the reason why the 40-foot is in place for semis is that most users don't need to have that wide of an arc to get on into facilities, and can cause more traffic issues. In the light of how wide Hinkle is and the traffic produced by this user, DPW thought in this case, this type of use was appropriate.
Is that because it allows for less kind of flare out before they turn in, or?
Yeah, correct. So they're trying not to have Hinkle, because Hinkle itself, while it is still a wide enough right-of-way, it's not super wide compared to other right-of-ways for industrial users. And typically in industrial sites, you're not having as much cross-traffic with the commercialization that's directly to the south. So based off of existing practices out there, DPW felt that this was appropriate for sizing.
Any questions for staff? All right, let's hear from the petitioner. Please state your name and address, or if you're a corporate person, employment address is fine. And please also respond to this. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Brandon Robitek, Robert E. Lean Associates, 1250 Centennial Center Boulevard, Hobart, Wisconsin, 54155. Yeah, so as John kind of explained, Russell Metals is a fabrication company that has semi-traffic that is continuously coming and going with heavy loads of metal. We feel that over the past couple of years, there was an addition on the backside of it. So the driveway that was initially shown is just being pushed to the north, as shown on those plans. And as these large semis coming in out of off of Hinkle, we found that there was an unnecessary hardship for the strict conformity of the 40-foot curb opening for the heavy semi-traffic, as an unnecessarily burdensome to the drivers and their safety, as they are jumping the curb. Thank you. As they're jumping the curb, they're taking their time with the shifting loads. One side's up 6 inches compared to the other side, and they're just taking more time within the right-of-way to get off the roadway just for their safety. And that kind of leads into the physical limitations of the property with the distance from the curb to the property line. They need to utilize the entire right side of the road, both north lanes, to right turn in, and they end up needing to utilize the entire road to right turn out, just kind of taking more time as they're working through that curb. I know there were some pictures of what's being shown. That right now is a 40-foot curb opening per the ordinance, and if there's a couple of them that you can see kind of the tire tracks as they kind of jump over the top and do damage to it. With regards to the protection of the public interest, we feel that granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. It would reduce the continuous damage to the curb and gutter in the area, making it safer for the truck drivers. and getting them kind of off the right away and into the development a little bit more easily, and also avoid the need for continuous repair of the curb and gutter, as it does get pretty beaten up out there. So here to answer any questions. And
Great. Any questions for the petitioner? Seems a pretty straightforward situation. All right, if there's no questions, let's deliberate.
I've made some notes, if that's okay.
Please, go ahead.
All right, so, in looking at preservation of intent, it does not seem to be consistent with the spirit of the regulations for this district because it's an industrial area. And the trucks need to be able to safely get into the property. The exceptional circumstance seemed to me to be the unique characteristic of the property because the trucks need a wider park. It's not wide enough for them to make their approach because of the distance from the curb to the property line. So that, to me, would be an exceptional circumstance. It preserves the property rights of this industry, this company, because they need the trucks to be able to get into the property safely without causing damage to the curb and gutter. I don't think it would be a detriment to the public interest. For the same reasons, it would preserve the curb and gutter, it would make it safer for the trucks to get in, and I don't think it's a self-imposed the hardship. I don't think the hardship is self-imposed. It's because of the kind of the way the property is laid out. Does anyone have anything else to add to that?
I would add just two more pieces. I think that I agree that it's not a self-imposed hardship. I think it's a safety concern, and to the exceptional circumstances, I'm swayed by the interplay between the commercial and industrial district. That this is an unusual lot in that this issue may not be a concern if they're parked back into a usual industrial park, but with Festo Foods and Walmart and everything else that's going on out there, I think this is an unusual circumstance. And based on the reasons set forth by Barb as well as what I've just added, I would move to approve the variance request.
I would second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second on the variance request. Given the argument that the 5 tests have been met, is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. Thank you, sir. You have your room.
thank you. Happy holidays.
Take care. May all our actions be as rapid as that. Item 2, Appeal 24-40, consideration with possible action on a request from Gavin Kenneth of Zenture Solutions, applicant, and Dorothy Harsh, property owner, requesting an encroachment within the front yard setback for a raised patio within a R1 low-density residential district at 1177 Shadow Lane. Would the petitioner please join us up front?
Should she go up? We're the owners.
Yeah, please, join us. More the merrier. And when we get to the point where we're doing some speaking, if whoever is talking could have the tablet in front of them, that way the people who are remotely participating in the meeting will be able to see you and interact with you. But before we get to that, we'll hear from staff, as we normally do. John, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth? Oh, wait a second, I forgot.
Yeah, that's his question.
I forgot the other part. It is the goal of the Board of Appeals to conduct a hearing that is fair in form, appearance, and substance. Please, if you can, respond to these statements by stating, "I confirm I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter."
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. Great. All right, John, please do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. So what's in play here is section 44-554, table 44-2, note C, where at least 50% of the front footage of any block is built up with principal structures. The front yard setback for new structures shall be equal to the average of existing structures. So the applicant is looking to keep a built 6 by 35 foot raised concrete patio, which is connected to the front of the house. The structure is raised approximately 15 inches above grade and is level with the front entry. So this is over on Shadow. Lambeau Fields parking lot is over this way, and the property owners live in this parcel. You'll note the block itself is pretty well built up at the same average itself. So what we're talking about here is front yard setbacks and having structures within the front yard. The overall block is on an average of about 24 feet. So anybody who's on this block looking to put in structures that go beyond that plane would have a similar issue. So what happened here is this: the applicants have put in a concrete patio that is raised 15 inches above the surface. The applicants, I will go into the site plan that was approved, asked for a 6 by 35 foot concrete patio. Within the code itself, there are some exceptions into the front yard setback that can be allowed, and one of those can be allowed by the zoning administrator. There's been a handful of folks who have asked they want to put in concrete patios on properties, and as long as those patios have not extended past 6 feet in width and are not directly connected back over to a driveway, staff is allowed to happen, because you're allowed to have a 4-foot sidewalk on a property. If you get beyond 6, staff has felt as far as interpretation of the code goes, you start getting the area where people start thinking they can put a driveway or use it for parking vehicles at 6 feet to max. So applicants came in to go do some work on their property, and it was noted on the site plan that the patio is not to be used for parking and that this would be a slab on grade. Why that? No. We've had some questions in the past as far as folks looking to put in patios or porches or decks on the front of their house that would be attached to it, and it's not permitted by the code. Covered patio, yes, but not an attached structure. So as you can see here, the structure itself is connected back into the house itself. Now it's raised just 15 inches above the grade, but it connects in with, you can see the entryway essentially at grade with the house itself. So applicants came in, they had done this, they poured the slab, the inspectors came out and went, oh, that's not slab on grade, it's poured. Applicants have noted, and it was noted in their application, that they said that they received this plan back from the city as far as it being in black and white, and they couldn't read on here, this is 6 by 35 slab on grade, that they didn't see that at all. I talked with other staff members as far as how this could have happened. Generally speaking, these plans get emailed to applicants back over to them, because generally speaking, the majority of people who apply for permits in the city do it via online, and they pay for it online, and they get an email back to them. In this case, this was paid in the office itself, so the admin staff just printed off this plan. Typically speaking, they print off any of these plans in color. Why this would have been black and white, they don't know. But the applicants claim that what they received was a black and white copy that you see right here, which is what we received back when they got their application, and that they couldn't read the issue saying 6 by 35 on that patio. So because this structure is connected to the building and raised up, that's why we're here. It's a part of the structure itself, and that structure is now encroaching into the front yard setback.
Questions, John, if this had been just at slab on grade, this would have been fine?
Yes.
And what is the actual depth of is that 6 feet or is it
Yep,
less
6
than
feet by 35 feet in length.
Okay.
I think it's your camera angle getting a little distorted.
Yeah, it makes
but
it look thinner, it looks like
Yeah.
it's shallower than that.
Yeah.
Other questions for staff?
So this is mostly a process question, so I understand. when you release the approval, after you guys have gone through it, and then they pay for it then, and then they get a copy of the approval?
Yeah, they get this copy that you see here, this,
Right,
and the building certificate that states.
right, sticks in the window.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
So there could be, a lot of times you might see some more notes on here that were placed on, that might have been added on to a plan, but that's what was agreed upon when the building inspectors were looking at this.
Okay, and there's no text list or separate listing, it's all just done as boxes on a picture?
Usually speaking, when it comes to singles and two families, it's trying to keep it more simple. We're going to a more technical process with a commercial site.
I'm just checking.
Yeah.
So I understand. Okay.
Great. Any other questions for staff? All right, we'll proceed to the petitioners, and I would ask anybody who intends to speak on this matter to respond to this oath. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
And then when speaking, please state the first time, please state your name and address or business address as appropriate.
Yeah, my name's Andrew Mahler. I'm with Zentra Solutions. We're the ones who pulled the permit and did the work. Address is N126 Speedway Lane, Sweet D in Kakana. Yeah, so I mean, we did the driveway also, and did our best to follow the plans that were provided to us, and we did the porch, and we thought we had an approved permit. And yeah, had no intention of trying to violate code. You know, we pulled the permit, thought, you know, and Dorothy wanted the porch to be higher up to be able to enjoy it. So we feel like the property, I mean, it's a 1950s house, it's low to the ground, you know, it's in line with the rest of her entryway. So we feel like, you know, the setback into the yard is minimal. And as far as protecting public interest, I mean, we're offering to plant shrubs across the front of it, to hide, you know, the fact that it's raised up. But we think she'd, you know, get more enjoyment of the porch, be able to use it. And we understand part of it is avoiding parking. And so we feel like it's actually in the public interest to have it raised slightly so that it can't be used for parking anything. It's right across the street from Packer Stadium. I'm sure they love to park things, motorcycles, anything on it, but by being raised, it's going to prevent that and allow them just more use of the space. So I know self-imposed is part of this, but again, I mean, it's just going to be a detriment if she has to pull it out and re-pour it, lower to the ground. We don't think that would serve any purpose, and just be a cost and expense that we don't want to have to bear. So that's our side of it. John wants to speak as well.
You talking to me?
Yeah, if you want to.
Me?
Oh, I'm Pete. My name.
Oh, sorry, Pete. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's
I'm not sure. You want to say
First of all, thank you all for your service in this
Oh,
climate.
we should
It's
talk
really- Thank you all for your service, because in this climate, the way it is, God bless you, that's all I can say. And I also, this was done not deliberately, because I really wanted this very much, because I have macular degeneration in one eye, I'm 90% blind, I mean legally blind, and then my other eye is 50% chance. So for me to go outside there and it's level, it'd be a lot safer for me. And plus the fact I have asthma and my backyard, I don't know, it's lovely seeing Lambeau Field, but trust me, the traffic, the pollution is not really good. So at least if I'm out on the front porch, you know, you say, oh, the games and everything, but there's only games 8 days a year. The rest of the time, our road, it's dead there. It's a great place to live, and I love the people, and I love being there. And I just have a little doggy who's just diagnosed with diabetes. I have to give him injections now, and he gets so hysterical with any digging, and if I had known all that noise was gonna happen, I may not have even done it to begin with, because I love this dog like my kid. So, and now to have to go through that again with all this digging, and I'm also concerned, I have a lot of like water lines under there. I also have electricity, and it's like, thank God, yeah, everything went through, but I'm afraid more banging and everything is gonna, who knows what it would do. So any consideration you can give, I'd really appreciate it. It was a mistake, and Zentra Solutions does a wonderful job. The driveway looks wonderful. I can't say enough about them, and they were very nice. They kindly explained every single thing to me, and That's all I can say. Thank you.
Questions for the petitioners? John, I got one more for you. If somebody were to just dump a bunch of dirt there to grade the yard so that it was, level with the top of that, would that be at grade then?
Hypothetically, yes.
So, okay.
As long as you're not creating the problem to your neighbors as far as runoff.
Sure,
or
sure.
For stormwater.
Okay.
That was the exact question,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Great minds, Mark. All right. Well, if we have any questions for the petitioner? Go ahead.
In your original plan request, was the intent to have it above grade like this? Or was that an adjustment that when it was approved, was made? I'm just curious, like, what was the original request?
I can,
Just please state your name.
yeah, so my name's Gavin Kimmeth, I'm with Zenture, me and Andrew are both. And yeah, so the original intent was to be raised, and I do actually have a copy that we were provided here if you guys want to take a look at it.
On the application with the city, it did state raised.
I don't remember.
I believe so, that was, the goal was to keep it up, get it raised, yeah.
So if the intent from the beginning was for it to be raised,
Correct.
I'm wondering if that was what the exception was made with regard to when it was approved, that they stated it had to be at grade, so. Okay, that answers the question.
Thanks, Corey. Any other questions for petitioner or staff? All right, thanks. We'll deliberate and.
Actually, I'm sorry, I do have one.
Oh, go ahead.
One question. John, on the approved plans, it says it's conditionally approved and to see some correspondence. What would that correspondence have said? Or what would those conditions have been?
Right. This is normally, when it comes to, I believe, the 1 and 2s like this, they say conditionally, you've spoken back and forth. And so if the applicant were to come in saying, we want to have a raised concrete porch here, this is where our building inspection folks would say no, and they would note from the effective slab on grade. You allow for slab on grade right here. So initially with this slab on grade, that's what was approved, not the raise. So I do not know how this process went initially when it came back and forth with inspectors. Sometimes it'd be a phone call, sometimes it'd be just initial plans that was put forth. But what was approved as far as the actual site plan was noted slab on grade.
The slab on grade wouldn't have shown up anywhere else other than in this picture that is either black or white or colored.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
So, going with that, then there would have been a conversation prior to, if we're signing correspondence, that would have been back and forth with the applicant related to it, so it'd be commonly to say that the statement would have made verbally about the slab on grade being a change to the approval.
Right. I was not a part of this process, so I might defer back over to the applicants, but generally speaking, an applicant may say, I want to put in a raised concrete patio, 6 by 35. Our inspection staff would say, you can have it slab on grade, we're going to place that on the plan, but it can't be raised. And that's where, as simple as that, with the conversations. Or you'd have to come through, if you wanted to have a raised concrete, to come through to this board and make an appeal.
Yeah, and in the absence of knowing that for certain, all we really can look at is, I think, the black and white version of this where I can't see the text, that's written there. So that's kind of, I think, all we got to really go with, unless we were to hold this up and bring somebody from the inspection department to recall their side of the conversation or something like that. I don't know if that's
Right.
really.
And in discussions with the inspection department, it's not as though most of the time, the person doing this would email over, or the front office would email over once they receive payment. That's a typical process for it, but because they paid in person, it's redundant, so you just give them site plan and the permit and say, have a good day.
Yeah, right. Right. and details of that I'm thinking it's going to be this versus that might not even been spoken out loud in that process too.
When speaking with the front office staff, no, I wouldn't expect what they would be keeping that detail there.
All right. All right, any other questions for staff or our petitioners? All right, let's deliberate.
I mean,
So I'm just simply inclined to approve this because this is an honest mistake. This is a 6-foot wide patio. Nobody was ever gonna drive on it, whether it was a grade or not. It looks fine in front of the house. I don't see any detriment anywhere or anything. This to me seems like it's regrettable that this happened, but I mean, at least for my part of this, I mean, we can go through the 5 justifications, but I don't, this seems to me just, this is something that happened
Let's fix it.
in communications, and I don't feel a real need to have them tear this out just for that. This isn't gonna inconvenience anyone, you know? That's just my initial thoughts.
Anybody else have any comments to share in the deliberation?
I mean, if I'm looking at the factors, I'm not happy with the way this went at all. I'm having a hard time getting there on exceptional circumstances that apply to the lot. There's certainly an abundance of exceptional circumstances that happened with the transaction, but not necessarily with the lot.
That's true, but
Yeah, or the intended use, and I guess I'm going in this case, I can look at exceptional, extraordinary, unusual circumstances or conditions apply to the intended use that do not generally apply because of the black and white thing and the communication process here. I'm willing to kind of look at this, not necessarily in the physicality of the parcel, but more so in the approval process that we experienced.
Typically, we're looking at area variances, though, correct? We're not looking at use variances.
that's true, but there's also corner cases, and this is one of those. I mean, if we look at the city's process for this, there's a balance, at least in my mind, and John, please correct me if I misstate here. There's a balance in my mind between ease of use for the citizenry and the need to document everything that goes on with planned construction. And as John had mentioned, something large, something industrial like Russell Metals or something like that probably requires a lot more documentation, but something with a homeowner putting in a concrete patio, 99% of the time, this works just fine. And we're in a corner case where somebody printed off not in color, and the note, unlike all the rest of the notes on there, was written in red on a clear background. This, to me, just falls into corner case. And since we are literally the last resort unless they take it to court, I kind of feel like we have an obligation to address it since this was, nobody's at fault here. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think people should have to, go through a great deal of rigmarole for something that they honestly tried to do properly. And the result isn't a violation that I think is a big deal.
Well, let's apply the tests here, still to go with this, and just say the preservation intent. I mean, this is something that generally is approved, albeit at grade. So I think we've got that. I would say exceptional circumstances. This is an unusual circumstance relative to the intended use. The miscommunication around that note on the approved plan, that preservation and enjoyment of the same property rights, albeit somewhat several inches higher than would be normal. Absence of detriment. I think this is really a critical thing here. Is this in some way damaging the whole neighborhood, damaging the community? I don't think so. And I think particularly with the company talking about maybe doing some landscaping, maybe even throwing a little extra soil on there, and could be, visually minimizing the height off of grade, and not self-imposed or economic. I think this is just a glitch, and hopefully one that will, not occur again. So I think I can see a path to saying yes to this variance, given the 5 tests, although I would be inclined to add a requirement that they do some sort of landscaping mitigation, not necessarily specifying exactly what, but that there be some mitigation of that height difference, either with shrubbery or soil or something else, in any action that we might take that's approving it.
I would certainly agree with that, and if you're making that as a motion, I would second
Well,
that.
no, I'm not. I'm waiting for one of you to make that motion, so.
I'll make that exact motion, just what he just said. Including doing some sort of landscaping to visually minimize the height of that porch.
And not necessarily eliminate, but
Not only,
mitigate it
just
somehow.
visually minimize. I think that's really a good quote from someone that said
And
that.
before we act, I would entertain a second, and then we can have a little bit of more discussion on that.
I'll second.
All right. John, you got a comment?
If the board feels it appropriate to approve this with conditions, can you place some sort of parameters on that? Because it's vague.
Sure.
There should be something that has more beef to it.
I couldn't hear that.
If the board feels inclined to approve this with conditions of landscaping, can there be more specific standards required?
Sure.
Placed upon that?
Sure.
Heights, species, number of plantings, things of that sort?
Well, Zenture offered something, in their comments. Do you have a thought of what you might do?
Yeah, actually, we got kind of in a site plan we drew up. We're gonna present to put some velvet boxwoods, 3 foot, about 3 foot high, big circle, so it'd go over the top of the
Okay.
building, so.
And some would be approximately,
10, so across the whole front of it, kind of going out to right around the corner, so you can't see that side piece.
well, Barb, they're suggesting planting 10 velvet boxwoods. Would you want to
Right.
make that part of your motion?
I would like to suggest that that be added to the motion, that the 10 velvet boxwoods would be planted.
I would just like to note for the board that when we're making these conditions, we are talking for in perpetuity, so consider that as well.
Hey, we won't say the species because they could replace.
Oh, good,
others, or
okay.
just-
Well, when we're talking about conditions that can be, these conditions should last with the property,
Right.
So consider that too in terms of, if we're gonna be talking about, what does this property look like in 10, 15, 20 years from now?
What if we say it in terms of a shrubbery that is equal to or exceeds the
Height of
the height of the porch and provides cumulative coverage of at least 75% of that concrete barrier? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Does that sound reasonable to you guys? Okay, so your plan would probably still achieve that? Okay. So Barb, are you okay with that amendment?
Yes, let's amend it to that.
All right, so we're saying something that's at least, shrubbery that's at least the height of the disparity there and covers at least 75% of the face of the concrete.
Not to make it complicated, but would it be, at least on the perpetuity thing, would it be easier to say, fill with dirt to within 6 inches of the, that way we don't have to
Yeah,
deal
but
with
then-
percentages and,
Except that then we're dealing with maybe that is too much of a grade difference and they've increased runoff to the adjacent property and now they've got to pull another permit to do site grading work or something like that. I
okay,
think
fair enough.
you guys have been around that block before, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Much
more complicated. Yeah.
I like it the way I have it right now. Is that okay with the attorney and everyone?
Yeah, I think so. And then who was your second, Barb?
I don't know.
Stephen, are you okay
Yes,
with that?
I am okay
All
with
right,
that.
so we've got the motion in the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
I,
Aye. Opposed? All right, you have your variance. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much, that's all I have to say. I am so happy for that.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And my daughter will be there. She doesn't like that. Thank you.
Take care.
Item 3,
Sorry.
Appeal
No, it's okay.
24-41.
No worries.
Consideration with possible action on a request from Father Don Ebert of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish, applicant and property owner, requesting approval of a driveway that exceeds the width and setback standards for a 1 or 2 family residence at 2756 Oakwood Drive. Now, please join us up here, and then I will remember this time to read the conflict of interest item. I do not have, for members of the board here, I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm. I confirm.
I confirm.
Corey, did we get you?
I think it might be frozen.
Corey's a statue.
He locked
Okay,
up?
please.
Yeah, he's,
He may have locked up, and I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. All right, we'll hear from staff first. John, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed.
All right, so what we're looking at here is a driveway, and this happens to have 2 separate questions for the same project. 44-1746, driveway shall lead from the public right-of-way directly to a garage door opening plus 24 inches of set side of the door. And 44-1746, sub 2, sub C, attached garages, which this property has, driveways leading to the attached garage shall meet the applicable side or rear yard setback for the principal structure established in the district. This is R1. This, the house in the district aligns with a 6-foot side yard setback. So the applicant is looking to keep a poured 14 by 22 foot driveway in the front yard that happens to be approximately 1.8 feet away from the side yard of the property and extends past the garage door opening approximately 22 feet. So this is a property over at 2756. It serves as a rectory for the parish out here. And so you can see the old driveway in black and white, or sorry, in asphalt that is black from 2023. That's when that photo was taken. That would be a street view taken from a year or so ago. The applicant replaced this driveway. They had gone through the start of the application process, but unfortunately they had poured by the time they had gotten actual approval on things, so they thought they were in the right, but it turns out there's these 2 issues here. So this is what was poured. Looks pretty similar to what was there before. Issue being this, that 14 by 22 foot slab comes within that 1.8 feet of the property to the, back over to the west, and then goes past that drive entrance at 22 feet or so past the actual garage door itself. Mind you, this is a single family home, but it's a rectory, so there are a bit more purposes and uses compared to a typical single family home, in the sense that it acts as a rectory for the parish and for the priest who lives here and the interactions with parishioners at the home compared to a typical single family. We're not classifying this as a live-work per se, but it has characteristics of a live-work use, but it's still classified as a single family home. And the property itself leads to Oakwood, which is a residential street.
So there isn't any special consideration for the use of this property in the code?
There's not, it's because it's a single family home. There are some special design exceptions that come into play for homes that might be a daycare, or there might be some additional things that come into play with live work, but we would still come back to the same question of the driveway itself being in the side yard setback and extending past the garage door.
And is this slab here then on the left, I mean, it was something that was present in the previous asphalt driveway, but is it not, that really ought to be, what, how many feet from the side yard?
This really, because it's a single story home, 6 feet.
So it's in less than 2. And then also, I mean, isn't that one of the situations where this should be like past the front of the garage, like on the side of the garage as an additional parking
Right.
space? or
We're
something?
seeing this tree back here, right?
Right.
But we go back to that question of, can you have the single stall drive or one stall opposite a garage, which people are looking to have 22 feet much of the time. So, yes, in theory, you could have back this way, let's see, move the cursor, a 12-foot wide driveway area back over here. I'll note as far as what the petitioners can get into more in their actual discussion, but in the packet that you had here, they do talk about turnarounds and things of that sort for the folks who are using this space to have interactions with the parish staff.
Sure, but that's not something that's codified in
No, it's not.
the ordinance that
It's not.
allows that sort of
No.
thing? Okay. Other questions for staff?
Any idea how long this has been rectory or church property?
Since the 80s, I believe and it's
Since
been, yeah, and from looking back in records, the driveway itself has been there like that in the in the asphalt form for decades. I didn't look back to see if there happened to be any sort of variances from back then. I did not see something from back in the 80s for that site then.
Any other questions for staff?
Now, it mentioned in the packet that this was poured before permit was issued.
Yeah.
So, was there a holdup on the city side? Was this just somebody pulled the trigger early? Was there anything on your end that might have?
I believe the response that was between 3 and 6 weeks as far, it was summer. And in
Okay.
summer, it gets awfully busy with the folks to be given the okays these here. So could have taken a bit longer than usual, yeah, but it's summer and it does happen that those permits add up pretty quickly.
I was more asking if there had been anything else unusual. I mean, busy
No.
in summer is normal
Yeah.
for your department, so.
No, from my
Okay.
understanding is, this was poured and then it just happened to be the next day
Okay.
is when the permits were looked at to say, oh, by the way,
You can't do that.
it's
Yeah,
all
do
work.
that. Okay, fair enough.
Any other questions for staff? All right, let's turn to the petitioner. And then when you do speak, please share your name and address, or that of your business if you're speaking on behalf of one. And also, please respond to this. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth? Great. Go ahead, please.
First, or you want me to?
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, thanks for letting us come down here and straighten this mess out. All right, on Monday, July 29th.
Please name and.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott Trubisky. I'm the facilities coordinator at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish. On Monday, July 29th, 2024, I had called for a permit. They said the permits were about 3 weeks out. About a week later, I called and talked to Edith, and she said that the permits were still another 3 weeks out. So under the assumption that there was no changes being made with the driveway itself, our contractor took it upon himself to clear out and prep the area. We had sent in some pictures showing the driveway, was in bad condition. We have an elderly priest. He doesn't get around too well, broke a hip, heart problems. But after all that, to find out that we needed a variance for the side. We didn't know that, according to what the contractor had said to another fellow that's supposed to be here, but he couldn't make it tonight. That once we kind of called and talked about getting a permit, it's all existing, it should be no problem. So that's where we rely right now, so. Gary, you got anything to add?
Gary Shabesta, 2760 Yorktown Drive, I'm on the building committee. And my only comment was, contractor should have known better than to start without the permit in hand. So he has some accountability in this issue. And my only other comment is a replacement in kind, and as your gentleman over there said, was there a variance at the time it was put in? Because it's been there
For a long time.
for a long time. So I understand what the contractor kind of was thinking, but he should have known better. And now we all sit here cleaning up this mess.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions for our petitioners? Fortunately, we see this a bit. All right, let's deliberate.
My view is that if you take that side piece and as you were describing before with regard to if it were outside the garage, there would have been a way to manage it. But based on like the angles and the different grades and stuff like that, would it make sense to do that? And would the cost of actually digging out the tree, regrading the entire thing make sense for the property as a whole? So I view this that it makes sense as a reasonable trade-off with regard to if they were able to, they would probably put the side parking on the garage, but this makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to be frank, we'd have never approved it like this. We get a lot of requests for second parking spots and driveway spots, and the city of Green Bay has kind of picky code about it. And we've been very picky about, we've made homeowners pull their entire concrete out because they put it in because their flat work guy didn't know the code and poured it anyway, or hoped that after he poured it, nobody'd notice. I wouldn't have approved it that way, and whether or not this would have been a reasonable accommodation for this, I still wouldn't have approved it. Even if the plan had been to put it over here and the idea was to move it, I don't think that's as to how practical it is. You don't have a right to a second piece of the driveway. The only reason I'm being a little bit hard about this is because we've been hard on a lot of citizens of Green Bay about this very particular issue. Because the city council has seen fit to put this code in the way it is. And there's a lot of people that want to violate that particular piece of code. Heck, I want to violate it. I want another parking spot too, right? But it brings you too close to the neighbors, and then there's the code requires you to be able to kind of like progress to the backyard, or have the ability to anyway, to make that second spot next to the garage. Some people simply don't have the space for that. You know, my last house, I couldn't put that in if I wanted. I had 4 feet between me and the neighbor because it was built in the 50s, right? So I'm looking at this, and I don't, at least for myself, see a way forward to approve what you have. I don't think you need, John, we're just talking about the jutting out section, right? They don't have to pull the whole driveway.
Oh, no, it's the area
Right.
that exceeds past the 2 feet past the garage door.
Yeah.
And just to piggyback on that, and not only do we have a lot of people, we have a lot of concrete contractors who, quite frankly, don't seem to care about the code either. It's often telling that the contractor doesn't deem fit to show up for these, to defend their actions under the circumstances.
First of all, there is no defense for his actions, because I was supposed to be there when he poured it in with the permit in hand, and he just took off on his own.
Right. Yeah, I'm with Steven. I'm having a hard time getting there. I don't know that we don't have to go through every single factor. If I can't get there on one factor, then I can't approve the request. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so based on that, I suppose I have to make a motion to deny the variance.
We have a motion to deny the variance. Is there a second?
Barb, you were going to say something?
I just have a question.
Let's have a second on the motion before we
I'll second the
discuss. All right, we've got a motion and a second discussion. Barb?
Now, I'm just trying to remember back. So, but is it appropriate to talk about what we did in a couple other cases, or is that not even appropriate? Because I can't quite remember what we did. I just remember there was something, two of these very recently, very similar to this.
I mean, you can draw back on past experience, but each individual parcel is its own case. So,
Correct.
yeah.
I'm just trying to remember.
Keep in mind, you'll ultimately, if you want to approve the variance, you'll have to find all 5 for the factors.
Right,
So
I
would consider
can't,
that.
I mean, I felt sick when I first looked at this because we just don't approve these, and I struggle because I'm always the one that tries to find them. I can't find them. I can't, so, that's all I have to say right now.
And I think we all have sympathy for the problem. We know this isn't your fault, but we have to be even-handed about it.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. If we had replaced that with blacktop in kind, would that have been acceptable?
No.
We'd still be having some issues.
All right. Let me take another angle.
I just wanted to jump in here. I think if we're going to continue this conversation, I would ask the board to open up the floor again because we are deliberating right now.
Yeah.
So just, no, it's okay.
I know, you guys, I don't see a path forward to yes. on the
I'd be willing
variance.
to open the floor and let him.
All right, so let's do that.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna get anywhere, but I'm willing to hear you
I
out.
apologize.
No, go ahead, please.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
I'll say.
Oh, sorry.
We got a motion and a second to reopen discussion with petitioners. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, carried. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. I worked for many of the paper companies around here, and we ran into issues like this all the time. However, one of the things that I use repeatedly with the state of Wisconsin, city of Green Bay, any cities, is grandfathered in. This was there for many years. It should be granted on a grandfather clause. That's my opinion. I've done that numerous times with the state and local officials, in fairness to everybody.
And your point is well heard, and certainly council might have some additional thoughts on that, but as soon as that original is dug out, it's a new action that requires approval.
We've had to go over that a number of times with other petitioners, and it's unfortunate, but once you disturb what the grandfathering really means is that if you weren't disturbing the original driveway, nobody could come in and tell you to tear it out. You were grandfathered under existing conditions. But because you touched it, because you're improving it, you have to come to code. You can't just fix what's there. You have to come back to code.
All right.
No, I definitely hear you. And of course, I go back to my state of Wisconsin. If you did less than 25% of the thing, they were very
Yeah,
understanding.
there's some, and in this case, obviously, it's not less than 25%, because it's the whole shebang.
Right.
There are some terms like that as well in the, in the city, but that would have been part of the conversation in the permitting process, which we didn't complete, and so we were never able to have that conversation about whether or not there's anything that you could do. Maybe had it gone through to completion, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna pour this, it's like, maybe they said, hey, no, you got, if you leave it, you can keep it, but if you replace it, you can't. And that would have changed your thinking about the facility. But I think that ship has sailed with the pouring of the new driveway. And so we've got to look at the current code as it applies to the pouring of the new driveway. And
that's, thank you for opening up again. Appreciate it.
All right, move to close the floor. Somebody?
Move to close.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, back to the motion that had been made by you
That was
to deny the request, and a second by
I seconded.
Stephen. Is there further discussion on that? All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of denial signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I would say one thing, however, maybe before you get the jackhammer, talk to staff. Is there any, way of, because there are some ways you can add or go back and things like that, if you want to explore those sorts of things and salvage part of that, I don't know if that's possible or not, but do talk to city staff about those if you want to think about any options before you actually remove the bulk of that. They may have some suggestions that are permissible, but I'm sorry, your request has been denied.
And you'd be the person to talk to?
Give me a call tomorrow, yeah.
Right.
Shut it off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Item 4, Appeal 24-42, consideration with possible action on a request from Matthew Litchfield of Mach 4, applicant, and MCPM Enterprises LLC, the property owner, requesting to allow a second drive entrance on a parcel within 200 feet of an existing drive entrance and screening exceptions for loading areas at 1111 South Huron Road. Petitioner, please, Bill. Here we are. And before we jump into that, I've got to ask some questions of my fellow board members. Please, if you can, state the following. State I confirm to the following statements. I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
And I can confirm on the last agenda item as I had timed out. Apologize for that.
Thanks, Corey. All right, and then on to the staff report. John, do you affirm or swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
2 items in question, section 44-1773, sub A, sub 1. Multiple two-way driveways are permitted on a street frontage, but provided the distance between those center lines is no less than 200 feet. And then section 44-1917, sub C, screening. Trash receptacles and dumpsters, trash recycling containers, and loading docks shall be fully enclosed and screened with walls and/or fences at least 6 feet in height and 90% impervious to site. Applicants looking to make an addition to the building. They'll create a loading dock and drive entrance. Proposed expansion will create a driveway approximately 156 feet apart and a loading dock which does not have screening that's fully covering it. So this is a parcel around here. I'm going back, this may be familiar in area, to a discussion we had a few months ago. This is a large P&G facility. This is a parcel that happens to be kind of in a quasi-outlet, if you will, along here on where there's a manufacturing facility that occurs on this site. As you can see, they occupy the northern part of the property, but they're looking to do an expansion back down to the south on this property. So here's what this property looks like as we sit here today. The one drive entrance, you can see some garages, doors, loading dock areas on the north of the building, the side of the building itself. And they are looking to put in an expansion that would make this building go down further to the south, and then putting another drive entrance off back on the southern part of the property. So here's the site plan as far as what they're looking to go ahead and do on the property. This would be the new building expansion. These are the existing, this is the existing building right here. They're looking to put in new garage doors, loading docks over on this side, and then an actual loading dock itself on the far part of the building. And with that, the drive entrance that exists would go directly towards that garage door opening, and then a drive entrance that goes towards this loading dock. And they have noted a variety of species of landscaping that would cover up this loading area garage door and part of that proposed loading dock, but not all of it, because the drive lane goes straight towards those that loading dock itself. And then in addition, from center line to center line, the drive entrance would be 153.4 feet, rather than the minimum 200 feet. So this one was another discussion with Director Grenier from Public Works as to if this was appropriate. Not the landscape part wasn't the discussion, but the drive entrances was 200 was this appropriate amount, and he felt this was the most appropriate if 2 driveways were to be on the site, given the existing conditions without tearing down the building and starting fresh, having the drive entrance that occurs to the north and what occurs to the south because of the wetlands that are on the site. You're capped to the south as far as expansion, back over this way.
I see a little bit of shading there. Is that a wet area there?
Okay, so you're seeing that right here,
Got it.
back over this way. So you can't develop over in that area. So the 153.4 is the max that you could do based off the existing conditions of the site, where the driveway is placed right now. And Director Neer felt that based off of that, he was comfortable with the idea of having 2 driveway entrances on this site. With this also in mind, this has the 3 garage door / loading docks that are facing the front. Now I want to this is not part of the code we're looking at here today, but I want to give some background. Garage doors and loading docks cannot face the front entrance of the building. They can't. But we have noted, as far as a staff interpretation of the zoning codes, you've established a front plane of the building over here on this northwest corner, and based off of how deep the trucks would go, currently the trucks face in a direction like this on the side. You could have, in theory, a loading dock right here on the side of the building. As long as a truck can't go past that front plane, and then they are being landscaped, staff would have allowed this to be a usable garage / loading dock because it wouldn't extend to the front plane of the building. The problem, however, though, is these 3 spots, while they have added in some landscaping, it doesn't fully extenuate because of said where the drive entrances are placed in this, to where you can't, in the design they have here, you can't cover up the loading dock area with landscaping, so it's exposed.
Although it does look like there's a significant amount of new planting there to do as much screening as possible.
Correct. So these are some larger black spruce species and I believe a deciduous, along with some additional species that would be on the edge of the wetlands that are proposed at that drive entrance, yes.
So so I'm clear, is it just the loading dock on the south side there that needs to be screened, or is it all of those garage entrances?
I would interpret the code the way that, my interpretation is all entry points as far as for loading docks, i.e. garages as well, if it is facing back to the south, because we're not looking, because of how this is set up to where your trucks will be past the front plane of the building, we're not going back in that part of the code where you can't have loading docks, garages facing back out the front of the building. But the code goes back and states that if you happen to be any sort of loading dock, you have to screen those loading docks off. So they're not screened. I'll give you an example that maybe we've run to just in our daily lives. St. Vincent Hospital has a loading dock for one of their accessory buildings right on Webster, but you really can't tell it because it happens to be situated sideways and they have some fencing and some screening. They have a loading dock right up on Webster Avenue. And so that's really the intent of the code is going with that there still has to be that screening to where it's 90% opaque, and then the overall height of the structure has to be 6 feet in height. So it's a combination. We're not suggesting what it has to be, either fence or landscaping, but there has to be something there.
Questions for staff?
Can you bring up the site plan again?
Yes.
Can you point out to me, I've got it up on my computer too, I'm having a hard time seeing where each driveway is. Maybe not, I'm not understanding something.
So this is the first driveway that exists right now on the property.
Here's the new driveway.
Oh,
And
okay,
then-
all right.
Yeah,
all
so
right,
the
all right, that makes a lot more
darker,
sense.
the darker asphalt will be the replaced driveway, or the new / replaced in part over on the eastern part of the property. The expansion of the overall driveway.
That dark area is all new pavement.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
that makes more sense to me now. Sorry, I was looking farther south, there was the wetlands, and I thought.
Right, dark area is right pavement. And this white area here you're seeing here, concrete pad for loading for a truck to actually load up on right there.
Okay.
Great question, Stephen. Any other questions for staff?
Was there any alternate plans that would fix the site problem?
So when we discussed initially this, keep in mind as far as what happens over here, that this wetland can't be encroached upon
Right.
back down this way. So that
Understand.
leads to, as far as development down to the southern part of this property, to where you have both loading docks and trucks, really difficult to go forth. There were no additional plans, but it was noted pretty early on in the process that there are wetlands, and that stops your expansion to the south. Additionally, with the property then being as close as it is already to the eastern property line as far as easements go, didn't look into anything as far as utilizing the eastern part of the property.
All right. I'm asking mostly because I don't want to chase down a rabbit hole of, how much more was attempted, so.
I will note the driveways as far as from the initial plans are wider than what it was initially speaking, to get to 153.6.
Good. Thank you.
Other questions for staff? All right, let's move on to the petitioner. And when you speak, please give us your name and address, business address. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Great, please.
Joel Lairford, Mach 4 Engineering, serving 2260 South Strider Court, Green Bay. I'm not sure Michael Kraft, who's the owner, I think I saw his name earlier.
Yeah,
I think he's a tenant, okay. I guess I'll probably tackle them we're requesting 2 variances, I'll just tackle them separately. We'll start with the driveway. The original building, the one on the north side of the site, that was constructed, I think it was 2016.
Sounds right, yeah.
And at that time of delineation we had to do a delineation at the request of the city. And the site didn't have wetlands. That delineation expired, so we had redelineated this past summer, and that wetland complex in the southwest corner showed up. So that tied our hands as far as any driveway configurations going farther south. And that wasn't, that was a development since the original building was put in. If you go to Exhibit B, if you could, which is this.
Have it on, they have that. but-
Okay, you guys have Exhibit B. That's what the building looks like presently, where the turning motions for the trucks, we were able to do that, have the loading dock on the south side of the building and make everything comply with code. We need that second driveway for access. This lot is relatively narrow. I think John alluded to calling that almost an outlot, because that is kind of an unusual size lot in that business park. One would almost come to the conclusion that Procter & Gamble may have done that to avoid this scenario, because literally the lot behind us is 1,800 feet long of loading docks next to each other. So that's our next door neighbor, which I think if you look in that air photo, you can see in the background there.
Yeah.
If you go,
In there, too.
yeah, and there's literally hundreds of trucks in there at any given time. And if you go back to that picture, our driveway, just for reference, that light pole you see there is just, you can see it on our drawing, just on the north end of our driveway. So that's where that second driveway will come through. So we've got that driveway pushed as humanly far south as we can without having to fill the wetland. If we could even fill the wetland. Currently it's against city and state ordinances to do that, so. That's, traffic patterns should remain the same. The bulk of their employees, the employee parking is gonna be up along the buildings. Most people would probably come in off that north driveway anyway. And this isn't like the facility behind us where they don't get hundreds of trucks. It's, you're talking fractions of that. And basically, that lot is, I'm kind of diverting here. I'll go back to, so the driveway, we've got as far south as we can. We can't quite meet your 200. Safety-wise, all the truck turning motions will be on site, so we don't have anything in the street. So that leads me to the second variance, is the screening. What we're going, John, if you could please put that picture back up. What's not real evident is that shrubbery, or those are, I think those are willows growing there. That is, we're proposed to remain in place. We're putting screening on the north side of the driveway. thought is, once this stuff grows up in a couple of years, really your only view to that loading dock is as you're physically driving by and you got that 25-foot section to look straight into it. Brought some pictures. It's not a unique scenario out in that I-43 business park. In fact, Nature's Way, I believe, is probably the most recent example, and they've got their loading docks on there. So we've attempted to screen that to the maximum extent practical, possible. We're trying to line that driveway up so the truck has turning motion, because that lot isn't wide enough to facilitate, doing a lot of truck maneuvering on the site itself. As far as the public safety thing, again, truck motions are gonna, the visual aspect isn't a safety concern. And again, we lack the real estate, and then with the wetlands pinching us unexpectedly in the southwest corner, we're trying to help this company expand, at the same time, staying in town.
I noticed like a heart-shaped low area in the area off the street here, as well as when you showed the photo from the street, it was a darker green bit of plant material. Is that another wet area, or is that just a landscaping focal?
That's the stormwater.
That's the stormwater retention for the existing
Yeah,
parking?
it's a
probably for the new
filter.
parking too?
A little bit. Some of the new stuff will go here, and we're taking, because a lot of that existing site grades and drains to that, so you gotta keep that pattern, and the storm sewer connections are there, but yeah, that's their existing biofilter. And that's, we've approached on that as far as we can, but
Yeah,
we
you
still
don't want to
meet-
re-engineer that if you don't have.
Well, and to meet the city's, stormwater requirements, we need the space for that too.
Right. Okay. Other questions for our petitioner? Corey?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, thanks for that presentation.
Sure.
I think you presented the information clearly to us. We'll deliberate. Thoughts?
I think I can make this work on both of the variances.
Let us hear it.
So, let's do the easy one first, the driveway itself. Looking at our preservation of intent, inconsistent with spirit and purpose of the intent, it seems to me that without, the exceptional circumstance, which also brings exceptional circumstances in, of the wetlands, that's to the south, yes?
Yes.
South, okay. To me, that takes care of number one and number two. You've put the driveways as far apart as you can. Staff tells us that you've even revised it further to make it as far apart as you really can get it. To me, that shows a willingness to, a respect for the ordinance, and I don't see this as being necessarily a problem. It seems to be that the wetlands, which were an unknown factor before, I don't know how they were unknown, but that's really immaterial. This represents exceptional circumstances for a variance for having the two driveways less than 200 feet apart. Preservation of property rights, in order to be able to use this property and expand the business on the same site and preserve the structures that are there and everything else, again, without tearing the whole site down. To me, this seems to be a reasonable variance for the driveways for that. Absence of detriment. This is an industrial area. I've driven by this facility myself several times. I don't see this as being necessarily I don't see any public detriment to this. Obviously the safety concerns around keeping the trucks off the road and the clear inability from the drawing we have here for them to all come in on one side. That does not seem to me to be a reasonable thing to ask a 53-foot semi to do. So to me, that's a justification for that. Hardship, difficulty in complying. I think it's not self-imposed, and I think the hardship here is the wetland for the driveway separation. So to me, this fulfills all the needs for the driveway separation without any trouble.
Thanks, Stephen. I think that's really well presented. I would note too, just citing staff's comment about the Public Works kind of comments on this, saying that they believe that this was the kind of the best design available as well, contributes to that absence of detriment. Is there any other point that somebody would care to make with regard to the findings?
Yes, I would. I think Stephen's comments were primarily as to the driveway portion of the.
Yeah, this is just the driveway location one. We've got to talk about screening separately.
I mean, I would echo a lot of the same issues for the screening. We kind of knock out two birds with one stone. I don't know that it's inconsistent with spirit and purpose. I think that, under the circumstances, if these folks could have put the driveway down further, they would have been able to do that screening. Certainly can't, given the wetland that's there. They've screened as much as they can under the circumstances, given what the site constraints are. Exceptional circumstances, there's a wetland that miraculously appeared out of nowhere that never was there. So that's the same for both. I think that variance is necessary to preserve property rights and allow these folks to develop this site. Certainly there's a good use of a good portion of the site that remains undeveloped due to the wetland and everything else. So I think that this variance is necessary to preserve that. As to the screening, I don't think that there's any substantial detriment to adjacent property. I think that this is frankly an improvement to this property and is consistent with the neighborhood. And again, it's not a self-imposed hardship. So that would be in my 2 cents as to the screening portion.
Thank you, Judge. I would just note too, I think like these kind of interlock with each other. The driveway location creates the inability to screen.
Yeah.
And moving the driveway either impinges on the wetland or obliterates the stormwater management, tools that they've got, and brings the two driveways even closer to each other, exacerbating the distance requirements. So I think on both fronts, the petitioner has done the best they can at mitigating all the negative factors here and produced kind of the best layout possible that still allows for their enjoyment of that site and their ability to expand their industrial operation.
For all of those reasons.
For motions, I would second them both.
I think we're just about to get the first motion here, I think. So.
Okay.
For all of the reasons set forth, I would move to approve both of the variances requested here.
Can we do them in just one?
Yeah.
Okay, a second.
All right. Based on the comments from my esteemed colleagues, we've determined that this meets the tests for granting a variance, and a motion to do so has been offered in a second. Any further discussion on these? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Appeal 24-43, consideration with possible action on a request from Dalton Roosh of Roosh Properties LLC, applicant and property owner, requesting to exceed maximum standards for the width of the driveway adjacent to an alley for a 1 or 2 family residence at 821 Cherry Street. And before we begin with this item, or at the beginning of this item, I have to ask my colleagues to state, I confirm in response to these statements, if you can indeed do that, and it's true, I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I
confirm.
I have not received any communication from the person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I
confirm.
With the exception, of course, of the agenda packet.
I always wanted to ask about this.
With the exception of the agenda, all right, and then before we hear from our petitioner, as always, we'll hear from staff. John, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give us is the truth?
I do.
Okay, please go on.
The one question we're looking at here is section 44-1746, sub 3, sub G, driveway width for an alley drive. Driveway may extend to the garage opening or may extend into a lot 30 feet in width and 40 feet in depth, but should not extend into the side yard setbacks. Applicants looking to create a driveway that comes off of the alley that is 63 feet in width. That would get you 7 stalls at 9 feet in width in total. So applicant has purchased this property, and it is a single-family home in an OR office residential district. Applicant also owns properties back up this way for multifamily use. We had discussions about a neighboring property here about 2 months ago for parking back in this area. So the applicant's looking to remove this garage and put in parking on this narrow lot.
Can you go in closer to this?
Yep.
Here?
There we go. Let's go a little bit closer. So this is the parcel itself, back up this way, and then this is where they want to add on the additional parking over in this area. This is a view from the street. There's that garage that you're seeing, and the drive off the alley. So this parcel itself, single-family home, single-family and two-family homes. You can have parking that comes off of an alleyway, but the most it can be up an alleyway is either 30 feet in width or half the overall depth of the parcel. Normally we don't have side-loaded drive alleyways. Normally it's rear-loaded. Let's just say you had a 50-foot wide parcel. Then with that parcel, max would be 25 feet in width. In this case, the parcel itself is pretty deep, so the 30 feet is not really an issue for that number, but he's going over and asking for to go beyond the 30 feet. Why is that? The request would be to allow for those 7 parking stalls to be created off of that. Now, the design standards for this are different from multifamily or commercial sites because in singles or one stall alley loaded driveways, you can park directly into it. You don't have to go through an actual drive entrance. You can go from the alley to the perpendicular parking stall. And that's what in the site plan he's looking to do. Let's say you're coming southbound, you would turn into a parking stall here and park your vehicle. So typically speaking, within the code, you can make a 30-foot wide drive and have it be 40 feet deep, have 6 parking stalls back there for a single-family home. He's looking to make the 7 stalls in total, 5 of which would then be used for shared parking with parcels that he happens to own back up this way that are multifamily apartments. Because this happens to be a single or two-family home, it does not have the same requirements for landscaping compared to those to a commercial or multifamily. So there is no requirement to put in landscaping on the edge of that parking. The rest of the bulk requirements of the property do seem to be met here, as far as impervious surface, things of that sort. The idea of replacing the garage on this narrow lot and putting in a 30-foot wide driveway access is acceptable. The request is exceeding that 30 feet by an additional 33 feet.
Okay. Makes sense.
Questions for John? All right, let's hear from the petitioner. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes. So, Dalton Roosh, 1241 Bellevue Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I was in here probably 2 months ago, and I was looking to do a parking lot located at 814 Pine Street, which is that brown area right there. About a week after that approval, the house at 821 Pine Street that we're talking about came up for sale. And so I thought it was a good opportunity to purchase the house, which I did, and it would give me this opportunity for the parking area. I want to forego the parking lot that was spoke about and approved before, and fill that area in with black dirt and plant grass. Rather than doing that, I would like to add this parking to this lot to give access to the community there to park there. The rest of the parking, I don't know if there was another map you did here. You'll see that there's parking along that, that one. You'll see that the parking along the alley there, I think that'd be the west, is just
off of the alley and into the parking stall. And I would like to continue that in this additional 63 feet, so it all kind of looks similar and continues on. So the brown area there, we'd plant grass, and then we'd add the parking to the east. Currently, 821 Cherry Street has no parking whatsoever. There's no driveway. It's all grass. You couldn't even park there right now if you wanted to. The lady who I bought it from was an elderly lady. She didn't have a car. She just didn't have a car. And I think she's owned it for many years, and
Was that existing garage part of the parcel, or was that not part of the parcel?
that garage there is a part of this new parcel. I want to remove the garage. I think in this picture, it shows that garage maybe in a better light. It's a pretty poor garage. It leans to the right about 12 inches. It needs to come down.
And there's no pavement leading to it, it looks like it's just got grass.
It's just grass. So either way, after today, I have to put in a parking pad there, and if 30 feet is the minimum, I'd put in a 30-foot wide parking spot area there, because I need to have parking there. So I guess I'm asking, rather than putting a parking lot in off the alley, we just do another 33 feet, and then I can utilize that as my parking stalls.
So let me ask you a question. When we make these variances, these are forever. It was mentioned earlier that these are long-term. Right now, this is your little fiefdom. It's not always going to be.
Right.
If we let you do this, this way, instead of putting the parking lot in the other one, I agree with you, this is probably a better solution, but it's not a better solution for when this house isn't part of that property as well.
Right.
Yeah, it makes it really hard for me to think positively about giving you the granting the variance to it. Because down the road, this serves, Roosh right now, but in 20, 25, 30 years, it's going to be an issue for both of the properties if they get separated.
Yeah, and one of my options, which I'm trying not to skirt around, is I could just move the lot line, because I own both parcels. I could just simply move the lot line over and then have access to do this. I guess I'm trying to do it in a way that I'm not, you phrased it right, where I'm not skirting around the rules per se.
I mean, you are either way, right? You would be here asking for a variance.
Well, I'm trying to do the variance route, and but if I had to do like a shared drive, an easement, if I have to do an easement for the properties that gives some properties 5 parking spots, I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe
it's a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe an easement that gives access to it.
Yeah, that could address Stephen's concern. I think the parking here, what's permissible? He said, the petitioner said 6 stalls would be possible, or you said 6 stalls?
7 stalls would be possible.
7 stalls would be possible, and how many stalls are we talking about placing here? One more than that?
Oh, sorry, as far as permissible, if we're talking about just single loaded off the drive, it'd be 30 feet is your max width, so that'd be 3 stalls. This, if you take a 9-foot wide stall, times 7 equals 63 feet, which is what they're requesting here.
Is the house itself a single family, or are you looking to make that into multifamily? What's the?
No, single family, yeah. I think he mentioned before, right now what's permissible is 30 wide and 40 deep. So technically I could do 30 wide and 40 deep, and you could, do back-to-back, cars back-to-back, which don't help me as much, because then you gotta share with a tenant or a neighboring unit, something like that. So rather than being 30 by 40, I guess what I'm asking is 63 by 25 space. Because it's off an alley.
You're just trying to create a mirror of what's on the other side.
What's on the other side.
I get that.
Stacked parking does not count as two individual stalls if we're talking about multifamily units. So you can count on narrow lots stacked parking as stall 1 and stall 2 if we're talking a single family home. That can act as 2 parking stalls. But in the sense of it being shared with a multifamily, you cannot expect that somebody who happens to have stall 1 in the front and stall 2 in the back they had to be the same unit. It could not count as 2 parking stalls. It would just be 1 parking stall.
Yeah, but you've actually got folks doing it that way.
At the
Based
time
on the
being.
stuff you talked about last time. Other questions for our petitioner or staff?
I guess I would have a question for staff as far as like if it's something that has to be considered even for like future, in situations like this where, as it was kind of explained, like there's a fiefdom or a larger grouping of people buying properties. Is there any time at what point would they have to change it over to say like more of a commercial, like rules versus a residential rule? Or is there something that needs to be considered in those cases?
Right, so, yeah.
Because there's been, or like, I like the idea of putting the larger parking lot here and keeping the grass how we want it, but I just, again, I can't get past the long-term intent of this as a single-family dwelling with a use for a single family.
Sure, makes sense. So the code gets pretty specific and specifically encourages shared parking amongst commercial and multifamily properties and uses. This is unique in its own regard that somebody who has a 1 or 2 family home would make excess parking for the sake of sharing it with a larger intensity user. So staff felt that the only variance that was necessary for this was this widening of the driveway. But I will grant that if we're looking at it through the lens of this was a multifamily user, there would be different code placed upon how this parking lot interacted with the parcel. So code does not get into the specifics as far as shared parking between 1 and 2 families and commercial.
Right.
Vice versa, single families and 2 families could find shared parking with a commercial user who happened to have a large amount of parking space and utilize that for their residential. That does come into play quite a bit in our downtown code.
That might be one of the areas where I'm struggling, is that we're being asked to put relax the rules on a single-family parcel for the benefit of a commercial multifamily lot right next door. I don't think that's consistent, and that's, I think that's probably gets into the detriment prong of the findings here. I might have gotten there on exceptional circumstances, but I think that allowing a commercial use of on a residential lot, I think that sets us up for some future failure.
You have a comment?
Yeah, are the added things, would that be like the shrubbery or the, what you just mentioned, where the residential usage does not have the same
That's some of it,
requirements?
That's some of it, but
Okay.
I don't think that's the overriding problem here.
Okay.
I think the overriding problem is that this is a single-family home,
Right.
and you want to put in for a single-family home is a ridiculous amount of parking.
Mhm.
And it makes sense today,
Mhm.
but it, doesn't necessarily make sense in the future.
Mhm.
And part of our duty is to not make this hard for the next board.
Could I, if this was approved, could one of the, either to move the lot line so that it is a part of the commercial, or is that?
Well, I think if you're starting to think about that as a solution, then that's a completely different
Yeah.
ballgame, right? If you wanted to say, cut the lot off, you know, the 821 lot off midway and deed the north half of it to, you know, one of your other parcels, then, you know, then you're just looking at additional parking and meeting the commercial parking requirements. Or, you know, or an easement granting, you know, that adjacent parcel access to that parking in perpetuity, or,
I
you
think
know.
we can just focus on the facts.
Yeah, but well, I'm just, well, I think this is the facts here in that I'm actually not sure we're the right body to be deliberating on this in some respects. Now, your last one with the parking area, didn't you go through Plan Commission and us? Or was that just us? That was just us? Okay. No, because it's like, this is a, right? This is like a complex. And I think there should be a master plan that you've got in place that's kind of approved in some fashion. That I'm struggling with some of the same things these gentlemen are. And I know when I look at it then and I say, okay, let's just, for instance, right? And okay, is this okay with preservation of intent? Well, the intent is that there's parking spaces with residential properties. It's a matter of scale in this case. There's more than that's requested. Is there an exceptional circumstance? Yeah, there's exceptional circumstances. This is an amalgamation of property owned by a single investor that is trying to right-size the parking for a number of holdings in this neighborhood. But is that exceptional enough for me to grant, to say it meets the test, right? I think it's weird, but is this parcel by itself, you know, meeting that test? Okay, it's exceptional in that there's no paved surface for parking right now. That's also unusual, right? And so exceptional, perhaps. But, you know, if you want to say, well, what does it need? Well, it has a one-car garage. Okay, so it could have a one-car stall there or two-car stall there. I think this is not a detriment issue. I mean, maybe to this parcel, getting to what these guys are saying, if 50 years from now, this parcel's, somebody wants to, you know, it separates from your holdings and somebody buys it and they got a single-family home with, you know, half the neighborhood parking on it. Is that, you know, what do you do about that, especially if they've been granted the easement, you know, in perpetuity or something, and so now you got no choice but to, you know, does that include shoveling it, you know, removing the snow from it, you know? So all of this would be made easier for me if we just, you know, didn't have to deal with it, or it was like you said, you know, you did a CSM or something and rejiggered the lot lines or something else.
Yeah, you brought up something, I hate to interrupt.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm just trying to.
I don't know if it's part of your current script or if it was our prior board chair script, was that this is supposed to be a board of last resort. I don't know that this is, you know, that you've reached last resort, if there are other options to move the lot line or combine parcels or, you know, whatever that the case may be.
Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say, I don't know what the requirements are for that.
Right.
Would it be useful for you if we tabled it for a month so you can figure that out?
I will note if lot line gets moved around.
That's gonna take more than a month.
It will take more than a month to do that, and to bring forth then those changes to these different parcels, we'd have to look at it when it's actually recorded. Keep in mind, moving the property lines around with this, we're gonna deal with rear yard setbacks, impervious surfacing, and then, while the lot lines, right, they'll still be OR, but this is not a zoning question, now becomes a use question. If this is a part of the multifamily use, the way the code is written right now, that means that parking lot has to go back in the situation that we had across the alley to where we're talking about screening, drive entrances. You cannot come directly off of the actual alleyway itself.
So if you were doing the properties, you'd come into that route?
Yes.
But that was my concern earlier, though, is if we're just not saying the quiet part out loud and using this residential parcel for that commercial use, it doesn't sit right with me.
I have a question or comment.
Go ahead.
So 50 years down the road, a different person wants to buy the house, but it comes this way, you know, then when they decide to buy the house, this is what they're deciding. It has this parking. So no one's forcing them to purchase the house in this manner, but I don't think it should be the reason that we don't allow it.
Well,
because a person could choose to purchase the house and still allow that parking.
right, but the multifamily can also choose to keep trying to park on it. That's really the problem here. It created the expectation that the multifamily is going to park there.
Well, and I, you know, knowing a little bit about multifamily myself, you know, these things are all gonna live together, you know, you know, that's the way you wanna do that. But, so as we've been instructed, let's focus on the facts of this, I guess, despite what's, you know, our feelings about process or how, let's take a step back. If there's no more questions for staff or the petitioner, let's take a step back and look at the facts of the case, whether or not we can find our way toward granting the variance as requested. And if we cannot, then, you know, the petitioner can think about whether they want to, you know, live or die on the sword with our actions tonight, or table it for some other, you know, consideration downstream. Is everybody comfortable with that? Does anybody else have any questions for either staff or the petitioner? All right. So I'm going to go, and since I said this earlier, I'll give it another shot. I think that, you know, we've got a request that's asking for parking off of an alley, and off of an alley that's got lots of other parking off of it. I don't think that what's being requested here is inconsistent with the spirit or purpose or intent of the regulations generally as it applies to parking in relationship to alleys. I do believe there are exceptional circumstances here that apply to this lot or the intended use that are not applying generally to other properties in the same district, mostly because of the varied, you know, properties that are all kind of trying to work together with regard to providing some housing options with nearby parking. And this is yet another attempt by the investor here to, you know, increase the available parking. We did make an approval recently, you know, finding that was appropriate in this case to add more parking along this alley or near this alley. And I think that, you know, all those arguments still hold here. And I do think that, you know, this lot is unusual in its proximity to these other uses, not necessarily in its own self. I do think that, you know, this grants this investor the opportunity to provide for parking for apartments. I think that's something you should expect as somebody who's developing these things, if they can provide the land and space for it. I know they want more than what the code allows right now, which is why they're here, but I do think, you know, the intent for the owner of rental property to want to allow for the residents of that property to park on or nearby is something that, you know, they've got the ability to do and should pursue. Absence of detriment. I think that, you know, most of our butterflies on this are about our thought about the detriment to this particular parcel that we're putting this use on, if we grant the variance, and that what does it mean for that single family home in the future if it were to be set free from the collection of properties here that are currently owned by Roosh that we've been talking about over the last couple of months. I think that the use proposal as presented improves the overall functionality of that collection of rental properties in that location, even if it does mar this individual house and burdens it with excessive parking if it were ever to be a standalone. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but I would entertain, if we do come to a motion to approve this variance, one that includes the granting of an easement to an adjacent multifamily property for some portion of those parking stalls. I think this isn't a self-imposed or economic hardship. This is an opportunity that this investor has created with that house coming on the market to see if they can't come up with a more elegant solution than the last one they tried to pull out of their hat for parking for these properties on this street and in this block. So that's my case. I don't know, you guys can think I'm all wet, but I think I see a way that this request meets those tests, and we'll be in support of a motion to approve.
Yeah, I'm still having a hard time getting there. It seems to me like we're being asked to plug our nose on the interplay between a commercial property and a residential parcel. And I'm having a real hard time getting past that.
I am too. That's really the problem I have.
So how is it not, so where is it failing then to meet a test here with regard to the comments both of you just made?
I don't.
So start with the first one, respect to the original code. That's code for a single-family property, which this is, and he's asking for more than twice. That's not a respect for that. That's taking into the needs of the apartment building behind it. I don't think that's necessarily.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid argument, okay. Are you on the same page on that? Is that where you guys were at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I get there on the exceptional circumstances, because we're looking at the lot itself. The lot itself is a single-family residential lot that you can put up to three parking stalls on. That's sufficient to serve a single-family lot, not the 7 or 9 7 stalls that are being asked for here. I think there's ways to generally accomplish what the petitioner is looking for, the applicant here is looking for, without getting a variance.
I just think it has to be a part of the commercial property if you're going to do this. This is owned as a single-family home, and by putting easements or anything else on it, you're tying it irretrievably to the house, to the multifamily behind it. And I have a problem with that.
Yeah, great. Okay, gentlemen, thank you for that. Let's turn to Corey and Barb in that, so you've heard an argument for that preservation of intent, but you also just heard an argument against that test having been met. Where do you folks stand in regard to that point?
I'm going to go more toward the granting of the variance based on those arguments. And I would certainly support a motion to that effect.
I'm leaning towards the decline of the variance. I'm in the board with Stephen and Josh there with regard to the long-term outlook. Like, I would feel better if this were a multifamily dwelling of some sorts versus the single-family dwelling. I could probably get there in that case because of needing the multiple driving spots for like a multifamily unit. But considering this is a single-family dwelling, I'd have a hard time getting there.
I guess at the risk of giving short shrift to anything, I would move to deny the application based on not being able to comply with the criteria.
Well, and maybe before we entertain a motion, because if we do deny, that ties the hands in terms of doing anything else. And I think maybe we might be inclined to just say, let's table the matter or do something else so that you can think of some other options here, because it doesn't seem like we've got the votes to grant your variance tonight as you've requested it. You might want to take a look at some of the other things, like you were talking about a lot split or something else, and maybe even the same form that you're looking for is possible in the future, but that would have to be another argument. But I don't think if we're looking at it as a single-family lot with a loading of, or a single-family home with a loading of those parking spots on it, that you're going to get approval on that tonight. And we don't necessarily want to prevent you from dealing with this matter for a year or more. I don't know how that works exactly, right? If we say
I think the petitioner taking the time to forward an application here, I would just make sure that the board has a sufficient reason to not make a determination
Yeah.
tonight.
Well, I guess but if we say no, right, they can't act on this again.
Right
They
here.
can't bring more business forward.
Is
on
it
this.
possible for the applicant to withdraw the application for the time being and then come back to us in the future? I mean, rather than us,
Am I understanding it correctly? If we say no, he can't do anything with this for
A year, I think, isn't
or
it?
something?
But
If you
you're
say
gonna-
no, the action as far as a request for, you have to make a substantial change to your request.
Oh, so if he split the lot and rejiggered this or did something else at his, and came back and said, I still need a variance, that's a different matter. Is that what you're saying?
Without knowing the specific facts of the future, the purpose is generally to not see the same application 2 times within
Okay.
the same year.
Okay, so, and this definitely wouldn't be the same application, I guess.
We don't know.
Right.
just in my mind, if the applicant were to, at this moment, decide that he wanted to withdraw the application, would he then be able to come back in a shorter amount of time before we've even voted? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to hear from them.
Yeah.
Wanna open up the floor?
Go ahead.
I think you were alluring to it, if I was to move the lot line and come back with similar parking area, but now it's on the commercial lot, would that be a different?
I'd approve.
Yeah, but it might create a whole different
we'd have
stack
to
of
look at that.
conditions that you've got to get a variance
Yeah.
on because it's a
Would
different.
would it be a different request, I guess?
But it would be a
I'm
different
asking?
request.
Yeah, it'd be a different request.
It'd be for a different address?
I just want to take a step back here and focus on the application that we have now. If there are additional questions, I certainly think that's something that you can talk with John for, but I know we do have an application in front of us here. I do see your point, Josh, about withdrawing, but I would just caution the board in terms of what kind of precedent that would set.
We've bumped.
We've held up things where it was a
We've held
clear no
up things so
before.
that there was clarity for things that we can't determine here. We've done that several times.
Yeah.
And it's usually just, we bump it out 30 or 60 days. We bumped one out 6 months.
Correct. I'll just note that if there's a lot split on this property, the conditions of that lot have to meet code.
Yeah.
So if you're changing around property lines, and we see that on CSM, we're gonna look at setbacks and impervious surface and things of that sort for the property.
And the petitioner still does have the approval on the previous path forward from a couple of months ago. If push comes to shove, you got it.
Yeah, I just thought this was a better.
I personally think aesthetically, it's a more elegant solution, but I don't know that we can get there with regard to the variance requested on this particular parcel. So I'm gonna shut up and let Josh make his motion to deny, and we'll see where that goes.
Does it make sense for me to draw them?
Or,
I don't.
I don't know, yeah, I don't.
I'll tell you what.
Do that, or would you rather not do that, or? Last council here.
As I see it, an application has been put forward, the application's been accepted, we publicly noticed this is on the agenda as an item, we're at the 9th yard.
Yeah, and we're not
I'm not sure how
gonna,
we
we're
would
funding
withdraw
the
this.
$75.
I apologize for.
No, that's okay.
I'm trying to throw a monkey wrench in it.
No, I don't think you did,
And anything that would come back later is gonna be a different request, because we're saying no to this one, so it would obviously be a different request.
So, Mr. Roosh, how does a 60-day delay sound to you?
Good, let's do that.
I move to table this for 60 days.
I'll withdraw my pending motion and second that.
Okay. We got a motion and a second to this would be basically you're saying to the February meeting.
February meeting, because I don't,
Okay.
because our Josh mentioned our January meeting is on Martin Luther King Day, so I don't know that we're gonna have it.
All right, we'll act on this in 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
and then what's the basis for holding off, just to be clear?
The
why
basis for holding
Why can't
off
we make a
is
decision
that,
tonight?
the basis for holding off on that is that we've decided to give the applicant some time to look at his options and inquire about some of the options we've had. We're telling him to do things or to have options that we don't know that he can even do. There needs to be a little bit more planning time before the option of last resort is taken into account.
I think this is different in form than perhaps the last time that we tabled, in that this isn't an adjournment to get more board members for a vote. I think we're looking for more information.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take that. It's been motioned and seconded to table this. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
If it makes you feel any better, I think your solution's better too. I just,
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I don't think, it's the city hasn't addressed your use case.
Right.
And I feel like we're not.
We've tabled the item.
Yeah, we're gonna move on.
All right.
All right, next meeting is TBD according to the agenda.
Yeah, so that's where it's up to you all what we want to do. So options, go back to the calendar. We won't be doing it on the 20th because that is the holiday. The calendar's not showing up right here. But as far as other dates of that week, if we wanted to, we could meet on Tuesday or Wednesday. Although right now we have no official applications in, but we have been speaking with people, so.
What do you think the likelihood is that you're gonna have something? I mean, I don't want to.
That somebody will ask and go forward with it. I would suggest that somebody will say yes, they want to move forward with something. I mean, obviously, we could schedule a date, and if nothing comes to fruition, or
we don't have to do it.
Yeah,
So can we say Monday the 27th instead?
Yeah, I take it back. No, we cannot do that because Plan Commission that date. No. And we can't do Monday the 13th because that would really interfere with the deadline times of people when they normally put it in, so.
The 14th is,
The 14th is Tuesday, we could do it on those dates.
I mean, a day to.
The 21st, you mean?
Sorry, excuse me, the 21st, the 21st, I apologize, yeah, 21st, not the 14th.
Okay.
Would have to be after the 20th, is what I'm suggesting.
I can do Tuesday the 21st.
I can as well.
I can.
I can't.
I can.
You can, okay. Yes?
I just want to note, I think that is the common council date.
I understand.
Just heads up.
Yeah, but I don't think they're interfering with the common council. The bigger issue is Plan Commission.
Yep, I just wanted to be,
Yep.
put that out there.
Is the
Yep.
planning commission meeting here?
Plan Commission meets in here, yes.
I'm just curious, I haven't been to one of the meetings yet.
When's the February one?
17th,
17th, right?
that's President's Day.
President's Day, that doesn't matter?
It's not there.
Is that another holiday?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll be here that day.
It's not a, it's one of, I think they more or less swapped it for MLK.
Might not be observed by all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to be off that day. I'd like to be off on federal holidays.
That's to be off most days, but.
I guess we could, if we wanted to move that February 20th or 17th day, we could also do that as well, but I'll have to ask for a motion on this to make certain we're all good with the date on the 21st.
Okay. So we have a motion to hold our January meeting on the 21st?
I'll make that
Tuesday the
motion.
21st?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, who was it first? Josh, okay. Motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye, opposed? Corey, you should vote no on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Great.
All right, appreciate it.
No other business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Sure. Second.
All right, all those in favor say bye.
Aye.
Aye. Merry Christmas. Or happy
Bye
holidays.
all, thank you.
Happy birthday, Barb.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
I thought I saw my email that we have a meeting.